Just what'd you think?
Oh, man. I'm not sure. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know yet. I haven't had enough time to process it, and I don't want to give too strong of an opinion, which is kind of a bummer because we're doing a podcast. So
yeah, we'll flesh that out in the spoiler version. But I think here's what I can is to start my process. I'm going to say what I loved about it because this isn't spoilers.
Yeah.
Loved Gotham.
Yes.
Loved Gotham.
Amazing.
Loved how I loved all of the characters. Honestly, there was all the characters, all the actors. I think did a fine job. Robert Pattinson looks really good as the Batman.
Yeah.
Just aesthetically, he looked great. Although I don't think his mouth works.
What?
Like, I just don't think his jaw works properly.
Oh, like as a human?
Yeah, you're correct.
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
I don't think his mouth moves when he talks that much. And I don't know if, but I think that he was like that. You know, I mean, hey, he looks great. I'm Team Edward, but you know,
For
hey,
sure.
I don't know if his mouth has the ability to move properly when he speaks.
I didn't.
Do you notice that with him?
No,
I do.
not at all.
Well, it's just one of those things.
Sure.
But I didn't mind it. He was fine. I thought he did a great job. I thought all of the actors did a great job. It's long. It's a long movie.
It's about 240, somewhere around there.
240, son.
Yeah. That'll get you. No, I agree with you entirely. I was very, very happy to see, like, when they first show not the establishing shot of Gotham, but the first time they show, like, the Gotham. I mean, it's Times Square essentially, but
the Gotham Square. I saw you get excited for that. Actually,
yeah,
that was pretty cool.
I got hyped because I was like, "Yeah, this is what Gotham's supposed to look like. It's not supposed to look like Pittsburgh."
Right. Yeah.
Which, sure, fine, Nolan, like, do your thing, but
and it wasn't that clean. You know,
no, it was horrible. It was dirty,
and it wasn't even like dirty, like in the sense of it's just. I mean, you could tell it's a rundown city, but it just felt right. I think they nailed it with shooting it in London.
Yeah.
Just that Gothic architecture looks really Gotham to me. And so bringing Gotham to life, I thought they did a really good job with. The characters were great. This is definitely leaning more to a detective Batman movie. So if anyone who's a fan of Batman and you like that element of it, this is heavy detective Batman.
Which is my favorite element of Batman.
Oh, 100%.
Because first and foremost, he is a detective. And that's the chief complaint that I've had pretty much to the point where I don't even talk about it because no Batman movie does it.
Yeah.
Which I've never understood because he's a fucking detective.
That's what he does.
Like this. I'm like,
his like superpower, quote unquote, isn't his fighting. It's his brain.
Yeah.
It's his gadgets. It's his way to like investigate and to get out ahead of what the police are doing. And he, that part of this movie was really fun. There were, I still, with all this being said though, I am not sure if I loved it or not.
I'm not sure either.
I don't know if I do.
Yeah, I will say, like, if I had written down a list of everything that I wanted out of a Batman movie, and I pretty much had, having just watched and done these podcasts for the Dark Knight trilogy, it had pretty much everything I wanted.
Yeah.
Like, there wasn't anything obvious, at least even that I can think of now, that I would have wanted that it didn't have.
Yes.
It didn't do anything like egregious. So, I mean, that's kind of a spoiler maybe, but nothing.
Not really, no.
Where you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
How could they do this? There's nothing like that.
No, yeah, nothing that like a Batman fan would be like, ugh.
No,
yeah.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. And so with all of this being said, you would think that my conclusion would be, oh my God, it's a masterpiece. But the fact of the matter is I almost fell asleep in the middle.
I also did. I actually did fall asleep in the middle.
I knew it. I looked over and I was like, I saw your
and I was woken
eyes
up by a
heavy.
really loud noise.
Yeah, it was loud too. If you see it in IMAX, I mean, every theater's a little
Well, we were
different,
also
but
sitting like in the dead middle of the theater, which is where all the sound concentrates.
Yeah, it really fucking blew my hair back.
It was super loud.
So fucking loud, dude.
I guess like my main review, without trying to get into any kind of spoilers, is from, I guess, like a storyboarding aspect, from us, like just the way things looked, also cinematography, and really from the plot. All of those things were the best iterations of Batman I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I mean, those, like, they were all so good, and I guess I could talk about the things I didn't like in this part.
Sure. You won't give
the
anything
main
away.
thing that was like glaringly obvious. I do think you could take about 20 minutes out of the movie.
For sure.
But I don't hold that against really any movie. I mean, you could probably do that with
Sure.
with The Dark Knight Rises and with The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
You could trim those by about 20. So I don't hold that against this movie. But, dude, the dialogue was bad.
Yeah, the dialogue was
is
not that great,
bad.
and the
narration was terrible. I don't know why on earth.
I actually kind of liked the narration.
I didn't mind the narration itself.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, it wasn't good. Like
what
particularly,
was written?
yeah, like the words, like
Yeah.
like it was just, it wasn't good. Like especially at the end, like there's an ending monologue by a character, and it didn't do it for me.
That's funny that you say that. I didn't mind the narration as much. The dialogue, I guess I didn't notice it I didn't notice it being bad. What I noticed not liking as much was and I don't know if I would say the score, because I think some of the music actually
the score
like
was bad.
Some of the music I thought fit, but then it was like the music was like inappropriate at points.
Yes.
So like the actual sounds and the actual chord progressions of the songs, like cool, but it was placed in very inappropriate places for me, and they reused a lot of the same sounds. And so it's, I mean, just from a movie standpoint, so everything Batman loved.
Amazing.
Parts of like the actual fact that
the movie itself.
This is a movie.
Yeah.
Didn't like as much.
I know, and that was such a bummer because, like, really, within the first 15 minutes, I was like, "This is going to be the best Batman movie I've ever seen, hands down.
God.
It's not going to be close. This is going to blow. Eat your heart out, Christopher Nolan. Suck a dick. Like, this is it.
Dude.
This is so fucking it." And then there were just so many times where it would be like, the fucking score would drop out for no reason and then restart 3 seconds later, or there would be just terrible cheesy dialogue, like to the point where like the theater would like erupt in not erupt, but there would be like chuckles going through the theater when there really were not supposed to be. Like they're just really like, you weren't supposed to be laughing at that point, but it was like so, like it was awkward.
Yeah,
how bad the dialogue was at points.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
Particularly with the Riddler, like.
I don't know.
And I liked the character, and I didn't even mind the portrayal, except for one part that we'll get to in the spoiler thing.
Yeah,
I reckon. But
that actor's great.
He is really good. But there were times where I don't know if it was the direction or just the way that it happened to look. I don't know. I really couldn't put my finger on it, but there were times where it really came across as awkward, and not in like this character's awkward way, just in like no, this is awkward.
Okay. Yeah, but I think I liked it.
Yeah. I mean, all that being said, it was good.
I'm very confused with what I think about it. I do. Yeah. I think they did such a good job with just making Batman. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that I liked about it too, and we'll wrap this spoiler-free review up here soon, because I don't know if there's much more to say in this segment, but Batman seemed very human.
Yeah.
Even with like the fighting scenes, it felt like there was a struggle with how he was fighting, and I really liked that, actually. I don't say that in a bad way. It wasn't, in Christopher Nolan's Batman movies, he had the League of Shadows thing that kind of added an element of like supernatural, even though it wasn't, but it kind of he was able to do things that didn't seem human, which I think is the point. He wanted to like be more of like almost like a horror movie villain for these criminals, which was cool. But in this, you really felt the struggle with him being a human being and being early on into being Batman. And I liked that element of it because he is a human being, and you got to see him lean really heavily into the detective side of his role, and they nailed that.
Yeah, they did. Honestly, it made me feel like they had listened to our podcast before making this movie, which obviously they had not, because
no, they did
for many reasons. Primarily, they made the movie a long time before we did. I
think they listened to us before the final cut.
That's probably what happened. Yeah. But because one of the complaints that I had with the Nolan movies is like, dude, we just don't need the Batman backstory anymore. Even for a first movie in the trilogy, we just don't need to see it. We don't need to see young Bruce Wayne. We don't need to see Thomas get murdered. Like, we've seen it a billion times. It's fine. They don't do it in this movie. They just fucking skip. It's great. Like, you start with him being Batman.
Yes.
And it's, like the first shot you see of either character is Batman.
Yeah.
Which is the correct thing to do from a narrative perspective, because he is Batman.
Yeah.
And then his mask is Bruce Wayne.
And yes, yeah, correct.
Right.
And at this point, too, with, coming up on 100 years since we first saw Batman in a comic book, which is crazy.
That's insane.
You can do that now. It's safe to do.
That's what I'm saying.
It's safe to do.
It's so ubiquitous. It's going to be all right. We get it. But I also thought that there were ways that they were able to tie it in that made sense. Like they still used his backstory. It's not like they abandoned it.
Yeah.
Like it was obviously still relevant because it's super relevant to the character. And they could even, this might be more appropriate for a spoiler section. I won't say what they did, but there was a period for me in the beginning where I thought that they were able to tie it to his backstory in a way that had an emotional impact for the viewer. Mm-hmm. But you didn't have to rewatch the same.
Yeah, you didn't have to have 20 minutes of what happened. Yeah, I agree. So that's going to wrap up our spoiler-free version of our The Batman review. Tune in for the spoiler section after you have seen the movie, and enjoy. Until next time, love you.